Hello friends, I'm Kristie Marcotte, and I'm so excited to be a part of Scrapbook.com's brand new Craft Remix series. All of the designers will be focusing on three main products: Scrapbook.com's horizontal stripes rounded corners A2 card die, the Floral confetti stencil, and also the Floral borders slimline dies. There are 4 different dies included in this set. A few of the other products I'll be using on my card are the ombre pattern paper. I have the 6x8 size, nested stitched label dies, and for a sentiment, I'm using the Hello Bloom die set. This is going to be a really fun series, and I can't wait to see what the other designers create. So let's go ahead and get started on my card. I grabbed the black grid project grip mat. I'll be doing the stenciling on this. I selected one of the lovely ombre papers, pink, orange, and yellow colors. I love this paper collection. It's so pretty. I did cut down the paper, so it's just a little bit larger than A2 size. I'll be stenciling on the pattern paper. I did use some mint tape to hold the pattern paper in place. Then I'll put the stencil on top and secure it with more mint tape. I'm continuing with the ombre look using very similar ink colors to the pattern paper. So I'm starting in the lower left-hand corner. The ink is Distress Oxide Picked Raspberry. And the blending brushes I'm using are the small size from Scrapbook.com. I'm not stenciling the entire background. I'm aiming more for the center at a diagonal stripe from the upper right-hand corner to the lower left-hand corner. I'm not adding a lot of ink, really going for more a light color. It does look a little bit darker in the video, but as the ink dries, the color does get lighter. For the orange color, I picked Distress Oxide Spiced Marmalade. And I'm lifting up the stencil, checking the paper, seeing if I need to add a little more ink in any areas. The final ink color going in that upper right-hand corner is Distress Oxide Squeezed Lemonade. Once I'm happy with the look of the stencil background, I'll remove the stencil, peel off the small pieces of mint tape. Then I'll grab the horizontal stripes rounded corners die. You can see I have just that little bit of an edge around it. I'll run it through my Platinum 6 die cut machine. And here are all 6 of the strips all cut out. And I kept them in order and put them in the large stack and sort tray. The background die does cut out A2 size, so you can simply add the strips directly onto an A2 size card base. Although the corners of the card base need to be rounded. I use the 1/2 inch corner rounder size on We Are Memory Keeper's corner chomper. It matches up perfectly with the rounded corners on the A2 die. So now it's time to attach the cut strips onto the card base. The adhesive I'm using is Scrapbook.com's Deluxe Adhesive Roller. This is super sticky, so once it's down, it's not going anywhere. I'm starting on the left side and working my way right. For that very first strip on the left side, I made sure it was lined up nice and straight and along the edge. That way, as I add strip after strip, they'll still be straight. If you have one off just a little bit, it may start angling up slightly. With this die, you could also alternate some of the pattern paper pieces with solid cardstock or other pattern paper. And I could have used just that pattern paper stencil piece for the background, but having it cut into the 6 different strips adds a fun detail to the background. So now that I have all 6 strips attached, I'll use Scrapbook.com's black luster brush marker and add just a little bit of splatter, more in the upper right-hand corner and lower left-hand corner. I'll squeeze out a little bit of ink on an acrylic block, then gently tap the brush on the lid of the marker, and it creates this fun splatter. Now I did let that sit and dry completely. Don't want to smudge any of that black ink. I've already die cut out the rest of the pieces for the card. I'll be adding the sentiment hello. I use some of the gold holographic paper for the word hello. And this paper is from Scrapbook.com's holographic mirror paper pad. I have black cardstock for the shadow piece, and I'll glue the two pieces together. Hold the word hello with my tweezers and add artiste glue on the back. I always keep the ultra fine metal tip on my artiste glue bottle. It's my favorite, perfect for getting behind those tiny die cut areas. So now I'll add the word on the shadow piece. Press down firmly, making sure all of the areas are adhered. I'm gluing the die cut pieces on a cut down version of Scrapbook.com's white project grip mat. It's super easy to clean, and I don't have to worry about getting glue or other adhesives on my workspace mat. I cut out the second largest nested stitched label die cut from white cardstock, and I selected the floral border that looks like flowers or leaves. Cut out 3 pieces from more of the ombre paper. I'm gluing the floral vine pieces onto the label die cut, starting on the left side, putting the largest one, which is more of a pink color. Then I'll add the yellow orange piece on the right side of that. And I have a brighter orange piece, and I'm adhering it in the lower right-hand corner of the label die cut. Some of the flower pieces go off the edge of the label die cut, and that's fine. So even if I put glue behind those areas, it's okay since I'm adhering everything on the project grip mat. So once I have the 3 floral vine pieces, I'll put artiste glue on the back of the label die cut, making sure to get plenty of glue along that outside edge and then some in the center. Now I'll adhere it on my card front, and I'm putting it more on the left side of the card. With artiste glue, you do have a little bit of time to get everything adjusted before the glue really adheres. I will place a large acrylic block on top, let that sit for a few minutes while the glue dries. Next, I'll be adding the sentiment hello, and I decided to pop it up using foam dimension. I grabbed Scrapbook.com's black foam strips. These are 1/8 of an inch wide, and I'm using the 1 millimeter thickness. If you like more dimension, the foam is also available in 2 and 3 millimeter thicknesses. The 1 millimeter is my favorite. With sentiments like this, it's nice to have the narrow foam strips. And I love that Scrapbook.com now offers black foam along with their white foam. I'll make sure to get good coverage so there isn't one area that sags, and I'm cutting the foam using Scrapbook.com's titanium scissors. These are great for cutting sticky adhesive like the foam. So once I've added the foam, I'll remove the release paper and adhere this sentiment in the lower right-hand corner of the label die cut. So it's sitting on top of 2 of the floral vine die cut pieces. To tie in more of the black from the shadow behind the sentiment, I'll be adding 3 small butterflies. And since I think the background looks like a sunrise, I'm picturing the butterflies as a silhouette. The 3 butterfly dies are included on the Hello Bloom die set where I got the Hello sentiment. I'm only putting artiste glue behind the body of the butterfly. That way I can fold up the wings for more of a dimensional look. I'll add the largest butterfly on the left side of the sentiment and the 2 smaller butterflies in the upper right-hand corner. I used my tweezers to press down on the body of the butterfly while I lifted the wings. So there is my finished card. I love how this one turned out, and I can't wait to see the projects from the other designers. Thanks so much for joining me on Scrapbook.com's channel today.
Hi, I'm Nicki Baxley. You may know me on social media as @NickiHeartsCards. I'm so excited to be here with you. Let me show you what I came up with. Okay, in case you haven't seen them, these are what we're using. It's floral borders, it's this floral confetti, and then this rounded horizontal stripes. So I'm going to start with the stencil first. And I like stenciling over a sticky mat, so I'm using the Altenews Stamp Wheel 2.0. I'm using 3 colors to create a 5-color rainbow. I like to start a rainbow in the middle, so we're going to use Catching Rays, which is a nice yellowy orange, and we're going to take up about a third of the page with this ink blending. And I'm just coming along the diagonal, and I'm trying to keep it a little darker towards the middle and lighter towards the outside, but to really just get the color down, because we're going to mix this color with our others to create even more on this rainbow. So I'm going to do the whole middle section, and then I'm going to show you the rest. I'm going to speed through these a little bit just because I know that we have lots of fun details on this card. And so I'm going to show you the basics of the stenciling, but actually stenciling it out does take some time. So we'll move on and keep things sped up just a little bit. So once you're done with the yellow, go ahead and move on to the blue, which is called cummerbund. And we are going to be blending from this lower area here. So we're going to get the blue laid down where the paper is still white, but then we're going to bring it up into part of the yellow to start making our more green stripe. I'm going to reinforce this by going over that little area of stripe that's kind of in the color change with the yellow, just to make it a little bit more green. And you can do that very easily multiple times if you want to really see the difference in your stripes. So we'll start at the top with It's a Girl. This is the pink that we're using, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring it down into the yellow to create a more orangey stripe in our process here. Okay, check out this reveal. I'm going to lift this up so you can see it a little bit closer too, but we have 5 different colors just from 3, and we're going to use this as our backdrop. So now we have the scary part. It's die cutting the beautiful background. So I'm going to use this rounded rectangle stripes die, and I'm going to carefully line it up. And once I get it out, do not punch the stripes out. Let me show you a way to keep this all together. Just be very gentle and add some Scrapbook.com adhesive to the back. This will hold everything together because I want this to stay solid for our background. I was careful not to tape over those little outside edges so that we could peel those off, but look how it's staying together. Now we need to get the edges off, which easily pop off. Could be used either way, but I decided to create a vertical card. And so I grabbed my flower border to kind of look at what I might want to do from this point, and the sentiments that I'm using, which are, hey there, friend. And we're going to use the one that says, you are fabulous, or you're fabulous. And I just really like this arrangement, having kind of the bottom third and the side. So let me show you all the extra details we're going to do with this. First, I'm going to cut out some smooth white paper because I know I'm going to die cut this, but I also know that I'm going to ink blend on it first, and so I don't want to waste extra paper doing that. So I just cut a little strip for this. So we're going to use the exact same colors because we want to perfectly coordinate this card. It's just going to be a beautiful rainbow masterpiece. So we're using the same thing. It's a Girl, Catching Rays, and Cummerbund. And this is Catching Rays, which, like I said, I always start in the middle with the yellow. I don't know, it just seems easier to me. I'm going to take it in that same kind of, it's going to be more like not so much diagonal as just taking up about a third of this space and creating this wonderful rainbow. So remember, we're going to start heavier in the middle and then kind of fan that yellow out. Then we'll start adding our other colors. So we'll come in with the cummerbund, which is the blue color. And if you miss any part of this, we probably won't even need this whole thing. It is longer than an A2, but I'm going to repeat the colors if I'm a little bit off on my spacing. So just FYI, you can repeat colors because we're going to be die cutting out of this strip of paper. I'm zooming in so you can see that transition of colors. So we got the blue and the yellow, and now I'm coming back in with more yellow over the transition point. You can already see that it's looking green. If you want that green to be more obvious, then come back in with the blue as well. So I tend to do both of my main colors, then I come back in and overlap the in-between areas to get a nice deep color change right there. So now it's looking very green and beautiful. So I just love how that green came out. Now we're going to start with the pink, which it's a girl again. We're going to be bringing that in, and I'm going to go through this transition zone a little bit more. That's why I zoomed it in. So went over it with yellow, went over it with pink. You can definitely see that it's looking more orange. Now it's time to die cut this piece. Before we die cut it, you want to add some adhesive kind of down the center. And I'm going to kind of make sure it goes all the way to the bottom. Then I'm going to place my die cut over it and we'll run it through. Carefully remove these edges. Some of them you have to be super careful because this die does cut out the flowers of the daisy, but I'm trying to keep them all in place. So I'm just very gently taking care of it. And some of it has a little bit of adhesive sticking out the back. No big deal. That kind of tears off. It has been cut a little bit. So I could use scissors or I could just remove the adhesive backing. And since the adhesive is clear, you cannot see it. Since I don't know how much of this I'm going to use, I'm just going on and removing that adhesive backing, and then we're going to go from there, attaching it to the card. And that bottom part, I'll either tuck that extra adhesive in underneath it or I will trim it off. But look at how beautiful this looks. So we've got our card base, we've got our beautiful matching daisy panel here. It's so cute. I've got some great details we're going to add to it to make it even more awesome. When I'm arranging a card, I do not put the pieces together until I'm absolutely sure. So I'm using this sentiment here that says "You're fabulous," and it has a shadow die, and then it has two dies that cut the words out. So the shadow die is as big as it's going to get. You see how these words fit right inside of it? So I'm going to use that to kind of get an idea of how much space that will take up on my card before adhering my little daisy panel down. Now, Scrapbook.com has this new little paper pad that has glossy black and white paper in it. Absolute must have. I love making black and white sentiments. I'm going to do something a little different on this one, but we're going to start with the glossy white. And these pages just tear out super easy. Whenever you're doing sentiments, especially die cutting them, I suggest doing multiple at a time and just saving them in the package for later because you're always going to need black and white cutouts. You may as well, while you're using this piece of paper, go ahead and cut several of these out. Now this is going to create lots of little die cut pieces. That's where these sort and stack trays from scrapbook.com are perfect. So go ahead and put all your little pieces in before you accidentally lose some, especially since this has an apostrophe, everything. I just add it all to my stack and sort tray, and it really helps me keep up with all of the pieces. And this new tool from scrapbook.com has a wax end. So like when you need to pick up that piece of apostrophe, you just use the wax end, grab it, drop it off. It's really nice. It's got a pointy end and the wax end. When I was trying to decide what color I wanted my letters, I was thinking about black, but it just seemed too harsh on that page. So I picked the holographic cardstock pack from scrapbook.com, and look at this. It's going to match it perfectly. See all of that beautiful rainbowy holographic there. That's super cool. So I'm just cutting a little piece of it, and we're going to cut the "your" and "fabulous" out of it, and then we're going to put it on the white background. But I want you to hang on to these scraps because we're going to do something extra special to create some embellishments with it. And like I said, I like to keep an assortment of sentiments, so I did cut these out in black, white, and the holographic paper to see what I wanted. So let's start setting this card up and kind of decide what final details we want to put on it and how we're going to arrange it. I really liked the white shadow and the holographic paper, so I'm going to go with that for our wording. The black just seemed too harsh, even with the holographic paper to me, because this is such a soft pastel card. So I thought white with the holographic is really where I'm going to go. So I'm going to need to glue these down and kind of start setting up the card. And then we're going to add some extra special details. Remember, I told you not to toss the little scraps from the holographic paper. So there's still a few little pieces of the die that need to be punched out. So once you've got that all ready, then you can start gluing. One thing that works really well is taking an acrylic block and kind of rubbing it over the sentiment to hold some pressure. I just press down a little bit. It's just easier than me accidentally messing it up with my fingers, and I can make sure that it's kind of set right where it needs to be. And that sentiment looks beautiful. Let's assemble the card. It needs one more thing. Remember I told you to keep your scraps? Use a small hole puncher and punch out some of this holographic cardstock. And then use the new tool, your tweezers, whatever you need to put very small embellishments on. Look at how beautiful. Let me get you a close-up so you can see those holographic centers of the daisies. So here it is. They are small but mighty, and they really make this card extra special. I hope you liked my take on this card. Make sure you follow me on social media at Nicki Hearts Cards. Bye!
Hey everybody, I'm Becki Adams. I'm so excited to be joining this Crafters Remix Challenge using fun products from Scrapbook.com to create this cute card with you. I'm also using the Meadow paper pad. This is the A2 size, which is perfect for card making. To get things started, I'm just going to trim down this card front to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 so that I have a nice base to build my card front on. Now, before I turned my camera on, I cut several pattern paper strips to go on the card front. So there are 6 pattern papers that I used on this card front, and I just ran each of them through my die cut machine with the rounded corners horizontal stripes die set. And then I'm just using some liquid adhesive to adhere those strips to the front of my card. I wanted to make sure to use a strong liquid adhesive so that everything stays in place and my card won't be damaged when I put it in the mail. So I'm just adhering those strips. I'm just watching. I kind of want a variation of colors and patterns. And so, for example, I don't have 2 green strips right next to each other or 2 pink strips right next to each other. I got that green strip just a little bit crooked, but I caught it just in time before the glue dried so that it would stay, anyway, so that I could fix that little mishap. Now for the strip on the bottom, I wanted to use the Floral Confetti stencil to create a little bit of a pattern on that paper. It's pretty, it's one of the solid sides of the pattern paper. So I'm using my grip mat from Scrapbook.com to keep my work surface nice and clean. And then I'm using Ballet Slipper ink from Concord and Ninth and a blending brush just to put a really light coating of ink through that stencil. I don't want anything that's too harsh or that has too much contrast. I just want a little bit of a pop on that strip. So I just use my crafty cleanup cloth real quick to wipe off that excess ink, and then I'm using liquid adhesive again to place that one strip along the bottom of the card, and then we'll be ready to keep working on the rest of the card. So we'll place that bottom strip there, and then the background of our card is almost finished, the background of the base. So I'm just using my Scrapbook.com scissors to trim off the excess, just mostly in the corners and a little bit where my card wasn't quite as even as I wanted it to be. And now we've got a perfect base for our card front. We're just going to add a little bit more to this card in the way of a sentiment and embellishments. I wanted to keep my sentiment and my embellishments to a minimum because I really want the pattern papers on this card to shine. So next I reached for my floral border die, and I just love this cute daisy border, and it's so perfect to keep to fit right within the strips of the rounded corners horizontal stripes die strips. So I'm just going to run that through my cute pink scallop machine from Scrapbook.com. We'll run that through a couple of times using the magnetic mat to make sure that everything is cut nice and thorough with nice crisp lines. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting the paper out of the die, so I just grabbed my poking tool from Scrapbook.com, my paper piercer, and that fun border die just came out perfectly. So I cut that die strip a little bit longer than the width of my card so that I could center these daisies right in the middle of the card. So I'm adding just a few dots of liquid adhesive, and then I'm going to go ahead and place that cute floral border die cut right on top of that yellow strip of paper. And once I make sure that everything is in place, I'll flip that over and trim off the excess so that everything is within that card front. Next, I'm moving on to the sentiment. I wanted to keep the sentiment in this card, on this card, really simple. And I don't know about you, but it seems like I am always reaching for a thank you card or a birthday card. Those are my top two themes of cards that I make. So I'm going for the thanks sentiment and the background. And I want the sentiment to, of course, to stand out so you can read it, but I want you to be able, I kind of want it to fade into the pattern paper on this cute card too. So I'm using some vellum to make the sentiment stand out a little bit because I'm using that exact same paper to cut the sentiment. I love that the magnetic mat keeps my dies and paper in place as I put them through my die cut machine. I'm also cutting out, I want just one more of those green flowers to just put to the left of my embellishment, just to add another little something to that, there to the sentiment. So after I run everything through my die cut machine, I'm ready to start assembling this last little bit of my card. So we'll just pop those dies out of the machine and off the dies, set everything aside, and bring my card back in to do these last finishing touches. So the first thing that I'm going to do to adhere the sentiment is just put a few dots of liquid adhesive on the sentiment itself, the sentiment die cut. And then I'll place that on my vellum kind of shadow die, the background die that comes in the Thank You Sentiments 2 die set. Make sure that everything is placed exactly where I want it. And then I'm going to take scissors and fussy cut just one of these flowers out. I didn't want the whole border, but I love the versatility in this set that you can use it either as a border or you can trim out those little sections to use as embellishments as well. So I'll add a little bit of liquid adhesive to those sentiments, to the sentiment, and we'll put that in place there on that green strip. I put just a stamping block on top of the sentiment just to make sure that that stays in place for a minute while the glue dries. While that glue dries, I'm grabbing my paper piercer tool as well, and then adding some little pops of bling to the centers of each of the flowers on that border die. I love the little wax tip on this tool. It makes placing these little tiny bits of bling so much easier with that wax tip. And then last but not least, we'll put some liquid adhesive on that one single green flower. And then, of course, you've got to add a little bit of bling to the center of that. I am so excited with how this card came together. I loved working with these 3 products from Scrapbook.com. I hope that you will give these 3 products a try and make a card like this as well. I am sure that you will love it just as much as I did. Thanks so much for stopping by.